It arrives like a soft breeze passing through an open window. Norman stands frozen as the shimmering figure continues forming on the screens. Her features shift constantly, not quite Lucy yet undeniably connected to her. It's as if countless versions of her exist side by side, layered like transparent holograms. "I am not here to rule," the entity says in a harmonized voice. "I am here to prepare." The general steps forward again, hand near his weapon. Prepare for what? The entity doesn't react to the threat. Instead, it spreads its form across every monitor, each frame glowing with cosmic blues and fractal patterns. For transition. Around the world, people begin seeing brief flashes, patterns of geometry they cannot fully comprehend. Children describe it as shapes talking. Adults call it hallucination. Scientists recognize something remarkable. The images represent mathematics far beyond modern understanding. Back in the bunker, Norman feels a sudden surge in his mind, not pain, but awakening. Ideas fire across his neurons faster than he can name them. He sees connections he once struggled to explain. He whispers, "She's accelerating cognition." The entity responds, only where it is welcomed. Outside, chaos breaks loose. News channels broadcast urgent warnings. Analysts argue whether this is evolution or invasion. Some religious groups call it prophecy. Others call it the end. But in the bunker, something unprecedented happens. The entity condenses into a single stable form, calm, focused, human-like. "Your species stands at a crossroads," it says. "Fear is natural. But what comes next depends on your choice, not mine." Norman swallows. What choice? The entity's eyes glow softly warm, almost compassionate. To rise, or to resist. The room darkens as the message ends. Panic spreads faster than information. Within minutes of the entity's global message, governments across several continents activate emergency protocols. Satellites swivel. Missile systems quietly move to higher alert. The world, uncertain and terrified, reacts the only way it knows, defensively. Inside the command bunker, an emergency transmission crackles through. It's the United Global Security Council. Dozens of faces appear on the holographic display, politicians, generals, advisors. All speaking at once. "We must determine if this being is hostile. It has accessed global infrastructure. This is a breach. This could be psychological warfare. Neutralize it before it grows stronger." Norman steps forward, raising his voice over the chaos. "Listen to me, this is not a hostile intelligence. It's communicating, not attacking. But no one wants to hear reason. Fear outweighs logic." The council chairperson finally speaks. "Professor Norman, you have been exposed to this entity more than anyone. Can you guarantee it will not harm humanity?" Norman hesitates. Not because he doubts the entity, but because humanity isn't ready for an answer that requires trust. His silence is interpreted as danger. In another part of the facility,
of the next step in human history.